It is just a huge honor to be sitting in my house on a Saturday morning with Dr. Kelly Bradley and her husband Chip, who drove 3.5 hours today all the way from Kingman, Arizona. I really, really appreciate that. Kelly's been a role model and an idol of mine for a long time. She was born and raised in the Valle Vista, Kingman, Arizona area. Her goal as a young child was to go to college and return home to help to the community with all their oral health needs. Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona was her undergraduate stepping stone, where she obtained a BS degree in biology and a minor in chemistry with pre-med emphasis, and graduated with Cum Laude Honors. The journey to obtaining her Doctorate of Medicinal Dentistry, D.M.D, took her to Portland, Oregon. Dr. Bradley graduated from Oregon Health and Science University in 2008, then returned home. Dr. Bradley opened her own practice in 2010, as she has been serving the community since. She is married to Chip and has 2 sons, ages 8 and 11. She enjoys traveling with her family to race dirt bikes, attend a magnitude of dental CE, and seeing the country. My gosh, she started as a dental assistant in a dental office where her mom worked at age 13, and worked there till she was 17. So you've been a dentist for 10 years, but you've been working chairside for 23. How cool is that?
Some days it's cool, some days it hurts.
You know, one of the reasons I want to get you on the show so bad was so many, I don't think as a man I can talk about woman issues, but so many women in dental school think, you know what, I don't know if I want to own my own business because I want to be a mom, and maybe if I just go work for a big DSO Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 5 o'clock I can check out and I can go be Mrs. Mom. What would you say to that? What do you think? Because you're heavily involved in your children. I mean, I've followed you on Facebook for a decade, and what do you think is better to be a super mom? Being an employee somewhere else 8 to 5 and not have to worry about the business, or owning your own place?
For me, owning my own place is definitely better, because at times we'll take like a week off, or I might fly out on a Wednesday, come back Sunday, or take off a Tuesday. I don't have anybody controlling how many days I can take off, what hours I work. If I'm not there enough, then you have other associates that you can hire, or specialists that you can hire to keep the ship running while you're out doing what you enjoy. I also can push super hard during 3 or 4 days a week, and get more done than I could maybe if I was at an associateship position, because I can really utilize my staff more effectively that way for me. I don't know. I prefer owning my own business at this point in my life.
To me, all social animals are controlling because it's linked to your survival. I mean, you want to control your environment. You don't want to be eaten by hyenas and left behind. And it just seems like if you want to control a bunch of people, like the military, you should want a bunch of kids 18 to 21. You're not going to control people our age. Or a bunch of but it seems like by the time you go to 8 years of college and be a dentist, a physician, and a lawyer, it's like controlling cats. And I just don't see anybody. I mean, all animals don't like to be controlled or under someone's thumb, but the highly educated, I think, are the least psychological profile to want to live under somebody's thumb and be controlled.
Well, and as far
as that's the word you use.
Yeah,
you said
as far as efficiency, I mean,
you started it.
I know that I can control myself, or I can make myself more efficient than if somebody else is directing me or telling me what to do. But that's my personality. I'm a driven. I see one goal and I want to get to the next. Whereas if you're in an associateship position, which I did for 2 years, I had more goals than my employer had at the time, and he was just kind of sailing smoothly, and I wanted to rock the boat. So I can rock the boat owning my own place, whereas you can't necessarily when you're in an associateship position.
You're you take more CE than anybody I personally know.
I love taking CE.
I mean, how many hours do you think you take a year?
There's been years I've taken 300 hours. This year I've cut back a lot because my boys are active in their racing venues, but I mean,
it's hard for me to go to a bar and drink 300 hours a year.
Yeah. Nah, you can do it.
I'm just kidding.
Especially after an endo lecture or something. But I enjoy traveling, which helps me meet other dentists that are kind of rock the boat type personalities. They're not just
absolutely
smooth sailing.
When I look back at all the institutes I went to, Pankey, Dawson, Coy, Spear, Mish, Ross, all the great ones, they were all great, but 30 years of looking back at that, the best one about all those institutes was the people you met.
Exactly.
When people say, why should I get my FAGD? I'm like, well, that's just because you want to be a FAGDA. But when I would go to those AGD courses in Arizona for decades, getting my FAGD, MAGD, it was always the same dentist there, and you might be at an endo course, and he's over here talking about implants and bone grafting, and over here, your mind was so stimulated. That's why I did this podcast, because they're commuting an hour to work each way, and the more food and energy and thoughts in their brain. I mean, we've thrown 1,000 podcasts out there. I'm sure at least one of them was good. One of them made an influence on their life. But when I see you posting everything, it seems like your number one love besides Chip is implants.
Definitely.
Definitely. How did you fall in love with implants?
Kind of by accident, honestly. There's not really many specialists in Kingman. Everybody's general dentist.
So Kingman's 50,000 people. How many dentists?
22 right now.
22 dentists and how many specialists?
There's one orthodontist.
One orthodontist in a town of 50,000?
Yep. Sorry, his son is there now too. So it's a father and son.
So are they just crushing it?
Yeah.
And every orthodontic graduate will want to go to downtown LA, downtown Phoenix.
Oh yeah, I'm
going to go to Scottsdale.
I've had to add up to hire dentist. It took me 5 years to get 2 specialists to come in. So I hired a periodontist and an endodontist.
So is that periodontist from your town?
No.
He comes in from another town?
Yes.
So what towns he live in?
Havasu.
And that's about what, an hour?
An hour. Yeah.
An hour. I love Havasu. I love Parker too.
And then same with the endodontist. It's a husband-wife. But it took me 5 years.
The husband and wife endodontist?
Yeah. Well, one's a perio, one's an endo.
Yeah. I've invited them to come on the show.
Yeah.
Tell them you made the drive.
Yeah.
Tell them they got to make the drive.
Yeah.
Oh man. So they live in Parker or Havasu?
Havasu.
So that's what a lot of these big implant franchises have done. They'll go into a big town of Phoenix, and all the local oral surgeons and periodontists say no way. So they'll go to a town an hour and a half away, like Tucson, and say, "Hey, any of you periodontists or oral surgeons need some more work? Then come here."
Yeah.
So you got 2 specialists coming to see you, but back to Kingman, 50,000 people, 22 dentists, 1 orthodontist. What else?
Father and son, so there's 2. I apologize.
1 office.
And then there's 1 oral surgeon. So basically what I was seeing was all of my patients were complaining about having to travel outside of Kingman to get their work done, their specialty work. But I'm like...
For what specialties?
Mostly implants. And they would come back, and I would look at this, and I would say, this is not specialty work. This is... I have to have angled abutments all the time. It was costing me $700 in a lab fee to make 1 crown. It was a nightmare to restore the stuff. So I said, why don't I just start placing my own implants? Best decision I ever made.
And how many years ago was that? Because you've been in practice 10 years.
I started placing implants 10 years ago.
Right when you started?
Yeah.
Just right out of the gate? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the podcasters are young. They're not like me, who's got 4 grandchildren. All the dentists that I professionally drink with, if I put a gun to their head and say, download a podcast, I'd have to shoot all my friends.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a millennial thing. And I always tell you, send me an email, howard@dentaltown.com, and tell me your age, where you live, what you like about the show, what you want to see. 25% are all in dental school, and all the rest are under 30. And they get like 1 old guy a week that says, dude, I'm as old as you.
Well,
like one
people don't like change. And that's why you don't have the older generation.
But the podcast, but what the kids are telling me is that in the United States, all the implant training is tied to manufacturers. So they kind of almost feel like they have to pick an implant system before they start training.
This is true. So I started implants with Imtech 3M, which they're not even around anymore, which makes me sad.
That was the mini implant.
Mini implant. So and that's where I started.
No one can tell me why that shut down.
It's a secret.
It is a secret, isn't it?
I think that there was a merger. It's interesting that Park Dental, almost every component is exactly the same as 3M Imtechs. The threads are a little bit different. The torque values are different.
Was Park Dental the original Imtech?
I do not believe so, no.
Yeah.
Park Dental is a newer company.
It's a newer company. Can you send me the link to Park Dental?
But all the components are universal between
So
the two.
does it seem to you, I mean, obviously, it's just conjecture, but do you think 3M sold Imtech to Park Dental?
Some type of merger, I'm assuming, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, nobody
Remember,
really says.
this is Dentistry Uncensored.
Yeah, nobody really says.
Yeah, well, it's bizarre. I mean, okay, so you started with mini implants.
Started with the mini implants. It was the most financially savvy decision I've made probably in dentistry. Is all I had to do was buy an implant cassette and like 10 implants. I think it was a $2,000 investment. It was a weekend course, which then from there you had access to all their like websites, all their cases that were posted online. So I scoured that website. I watched everybody's cases. You saw failures, you saw successes, everything. From there, that really took off for me because most people in Kingman are low economic, lots of dentures, lots of lower dentures floating around, and you can become a hero in 2-3 weeks placing mini implants and locking a denture down. So that's where my implants started. And then from there, I got more interested in patients that were only missing one tooth or, a couple teeth. They wanted individually, where they can floss between their teeth. Then I got into conventionals.
So really the only thing difference in a mini and a conventional is diameter.
Size.
I mean, a mini is
anything less than 3 millimeters.
3 millimeters or less. Is it 2.9 or less, or is it 3.0 a mini?
I think it's 2.9 or less.
See, I got her. That's the only thing I know more about implants than Kelly. Was that so you started with mini. Oh, so it's Park Dental research.
Yeah.
So would you recommend that people do minis, go to Park Dental research? The reason I asked is because on Dentaltown, dentists are, they can be a piece of work,
Oh yeah, everybody's against minis.
So under dental implants, we had to switch mini implants and conventional, and we also had to on CAD/CAM separate the Sirona Cerac from E4D because the Sirona people are
name brand.
Anybody posts, you shouldn't have used E4. It's like, shut the hell up, you're an idiot. And most everybody posting anti-E4D stuff is on the payroll of Sirona. They lecture for them. They're speakers at their Sirona meeting. It's like
they probably drive Chevys.
It's like I wish when they lectured they had to be like NASCAR and have all the badges of all the people paying all their bills. But so it's so damn emotional. Why is because the one thing that makes sense for me on a mini is like I would imagine an implant on you would be a different size than on Charles Barkley.
Absolutely. So my patients...
aren't apes and monkeys variants in size?
Right. My patients, most of them haven't had teeth for 20, 30 years. They've been wearing a denture. Now, how are you going to take that bone that hasn't been stimulated for 20, 30 years and get a 3 to 5, 6 millimeter implant diameter in there? You're not. There's not enough bone.
So that's the Park Dental?
Yes.
So would you recommend they start with that? Because now some implant systems have small diameters.
They do, I believe.
Or do you still use Park Dental mini implants? Mm-hmm. So you still recommend them? Well,
absolutely. From a cost standpoint, you can get an implant with the housing for, I believe it's $79, under $100, versus you go with a conventional sized implant. I mean, you're going to be at least $140, $150. And I mean, I'm being very generous with the conventionals because most of them, I like Camlog. That's my preferred implant system.
What is your preferred implant system?
Camlog.
Camelot?
Camlog.
Camlog.
LOG. Yep.
CAMLOG?
Correct.
One word?
Correct. Yeah, so CHIP handles the 3D printing aspect. So our guides are 3D printed. Why I like Camlog is you don't have to have keys. So I can get to 18 and 31 limited vertical dimension, and I can fit. I mean, you can get 11 millimeter.
Okay, but a lot of my homies doesn't know what you meant by that. What do you mean doesn't have keys?
Okay, so a key is like a device that you put into your guide or you use to place the implant. It's a separate little tool that you have to fit the drill through. Whereas Camlog, each drill is unique to that diameter and length of implant that you've chose.
So are you going to go to Camlog's symposium? It's
in the Netherlands.
Conveniently located.
In like 2 weeks or something. I would love to, but I'm already busy.
It's in Rotterdam.
Yep.
What country is Rotterdam in?
I wish I could be there. It's Netherlands, right? Part of the Netherlands.
Is Rotterdam in the Netherlands, Ryan? Ryan, you should know that. You went to college for 4 years.
Rotterdam is a city in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
It's a major city in the Dutch province of South Holland.
And they pronounce it the Nederlands. And you know what it means? Lowlands. And you know how everybody in America thinks America is the greatest country in the earth, and everybody who says that has never left Kansas or Nebraska or Texas. When you go to what I consider the greatest civilization on earth is Scandinavia, Denmark, Sweden, Norway. I mean, if you think Oklahoma and Kansas are better than Denmark, Sweden, or you just never been there. But back to the Louisiana dikes that broke and flooded. When you go to Louisiana, in the country that landed on the moon, I mean, it's a dirt dike. And then when you go to the Netherlands, they've been growing their country by building these cement wall dikes, and they'll build the walls out, drain the water, fill it up with dirt, and their city's been growing that way. Their dike system looks like it was made by Star Wars. And then you come to Louisiana, and you thought, really, that dirt hill, that dirt hill broke? Well, how did the dirt hill break? And my God, the Netherlands are the Netherlands. It's just, I mean, they're just crazy sophisticated.
Well, that's one thing I recommend too to people that are just getting out of school or still in dental school is don't look for classes necessarily in our country. Because our country limits what we can do. So if you go out of the country, you can have a dental license, a business license, everything within like 2-3 days. Your hands aren't tied by all the red tape, and you can do procedures that you could only dream of doing here. So I went to the Dominican Republic, and this course I chose because they were not tied to a specific implant brand. So most of the implant training that you go to, you're correct, it's tied to a specific implant system. Implant seminars, Dr. Garg is the main mentor I have there, they don't tie themselves to a specific implant brand. So you could learn multiple different systems going through one seminar series, and you work in the Dominican Republic where you walk into the clinic and there's 100, 200 people lined up at the door that will let you do whatever you want. Okay,
you know we got that approved for Arizona, right?
Oh, really?
Did you hear about that?
No.
Well, first of all, I got to interrupt one thing. So I went to the Camlog, and interesting, when I hit the Twitter link, it goes to Henry Schein Dental Surgical Solution.
Yep.
And it says BioHorizons.
Yes.
We are pleased to announce that BioHorizons will become the exclusive distributor of Camlog branded products in the United States and Canada effective June 27th.
Yep.
And that Henry Schein, that Henry Schein Dental, it has BioHorizons.
So Henry Schein has recently purchased all those companies.
Recently purchased or exclusive distribution?
Distributing,
okay.
I believe.
Okay, so they don't own them, they exclusive distributors.
I believe, yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yes, that's been...
And BioHorizons, that's a really interesting company. But you don't know where... So Camlog's out of the Netherlands. Because BioHorizons, I went there one time. That northern Alabama, that's where they made all the booster rockets for the space shuttle. I mean, just out in the middle of... this... they got 4 seasons, but it's mild. It's really beautiful. I think Arkansas and Alabama and the Carolinas are the least talked about, prettiest places in America. I mean, my God. Charlotte, North Carolina, you get all the 4 seasons, but you don't get brutal seasons. Arkansas, my sister lives in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Oh my God, that's just... and Alabama. But anyway, and then all of a sudden, you're in this area where it's the most high-tech, one of the most high-tech havens in America. So you were talking about, go back to what you just said last. I interrupt you on the BioHorizons thing.
Well, he had said that Arizona just approved the...
Yeah, Arizona. So basically, women dentists...
Germany.
It's Germany. What city?
Okay,
it's okay. I'm mad at Germany because last time I went there, I found out that the hamburger was not invented in Hamburg.
Windshine, near Stuttgart.
And Frankfurt was not,
Stuttgart,
the hot dog
Germany?
was not invented in Frankfurt. I don't believe the Germans. I think they're lying. I'm still going to tell my grandchildren it was. And I've seen 2 original museums. I went to the museum where cologne was invented in Cologne, Germany, and I went to the museum in Paris where perfume was invented. And both places, I told them, I said, and in America, I've lectured 6 times in the city that had a museum where ice cream was invented. So, talk about fake news.
Yeah.
We need to talk about fake museums. I mean, how could 6 different cities have a museum for the invention of ice cream?
Because it's a business and people
So anyway,
there.
so there's homeless shelters. And so there's a homeless shelter in Arizona just for vets. So the head of the guy said, so women dentists said, well, I don't feel safe going into Mexico and Dominican Republic, and I want a hands-on deal. So they have to go their hands-on in their state because they're only licensed in their state. So Chris Volchek, who born and raised in Globe, been a dentist in a homeless shelter for 30 years, went down to the board and said, do you have a problem with licensed dentists in America coming to the homeless shelter and placing free implants on vets? You're like, well, how could you say no to that?
Right.
So he got the deal. So now
What's
you
phenomenal?
could have a hands-on course, or Arun Garg could. You should tell Arun, or you should do it, so that any licensed dentist in good standing in the United States can come to Arizona. So once that was done, and we talked about it
So
on
you
a
don't
podcast.
have to have an Arizona license?
And once we started talking about some other dentist, I forgot where it was, but somewhere in New Jersey, he did the same thing in his deal. And I'm trying to get, you shouldn't have to go to another country to work on the poor in America. I think Tennessee was the first state where the dentist went to the deal and said, okay, we clean grandma's teeth. And when she comes back in 6 months, one of the top 5 reasons she doesn't come back is because she died of the flu. And we're not allowed to give a flu shot, but you can go to Walgreens and a pharmacy tech with 9 months of training give a flu shot, but a dentist can't.
Right.
So Tennessee was the first state that said, yeah, you're right, that's crazy. And I want to get that, and also the HPV. This flu season was brutal. About 8,000 to 38,000 die of the flu each year. And the last time it was closer to 38,000 was 2009. And the CDC saying it could be close to that one again. And so it's pretty sad that you died of the flu in Arizona, and the last time you went to the dentist, you got your teeth cleaned, they check you for gingivitis instead of checking grandpa if you got a flu shot. And then our only cancer pretty much is oral pharyngeal HPV, and we're not allowed to give an HPV shot.
Right.
And I guess you got to give the vaccine Gardia, is that what it's called? Gardasil? I guess you got to get it into them before they've been exposed to it, I guess, or something
Correct.
like that. You got to get them
Yep.
like under 10 or 12.
Before they're inoculated with the virus, because the virus lives in the ganglion.
Yeah.
Once you have it, you have it.
So we're really not doctors if you can't give a flu shot and an HPV shot.
Well, it's the same with Botox and dermal fillers. So in Arizona, you can't administer Botox or dermal fillers unless you have a dental license. So the hygienists can anesthetize you and paralyze your jaw with anesthesia, which is rare, but they can't use Botox or dermal fillers.
So, so if you ever know somebody from out of state, you should go to these veterans deal, and you should get that, because I think it's pretty sad that American dentists have to pay thousands of dollars to go to other countries and not feel safe. I don't feel safe in Mexico. I quit going to Mexico. I used to go with my best dental friend from UMKC. Me and Craig Steichman go down there, and we go to Cabo and we go deep sea fishing. And the last time we went deep sea fishing, walking back from the boat to the deal, the police pulled up behind us. So we just figured they were looking. So we just stepped to the side. They were looking for us. And then they frisked me, took my wallet, took all my cash out, threw my wallet on the ground, jumped in a police car, and drove off.
Right.
And then when I went back, I told the manager of the resort, and he started crying. He said, they're ruining our business. He goes, I have so many regulars like you who just aren't coming back because of the damn police. And it's just crazy. So if that's up to grandpa fisherman males, imagine a young woman wanting to go to that course alone.
Yeah. Well, you have bodyguards the whole time, but you don't know if the bodyguard's safe.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in Tanzania, I wanted to go to the garment district. That's the coolest thing. And the hotel said, no, you're absolutely not going to the garment district. That's so damn dangerous. And I was with 4 dentists. I said, we got to see it. This is the coolest thing in town. They go, no way. So I said, I'm a little more street smart. So I just started walking down the street, and I walked into this restaurant, and there was just this huge man. He was the biggest man in the restaurant, and he was probably about 30. He just looked like the most badass son of a bitch in the world. And I went up to him. I pulled out a Benjamin. I said, if I give you this, would I be safe? Could you walk me through the garment district? And he said, absolutely. And so I just walked through with this guy. I look like, I think that my head came up to his belly button, it was just, but people look at me and then they look at him and they just ferry on their way. Wow. So I took a whole tour of the garment district with this 300-pound man that could probably throw me up onto the roof. So you recommend Arun Garg?
Yeah, I had a very good experience.
Is he your top choice?
I really liked my Cum Laude course as well. Implant Direct also has some good courses, but I'm not a huge Implant Direct fan.
Oh, and why is that?
I just don't like the components as well. The tissue doesn't seem to heal as well. I liked a machined collar up at the top if they don't have good hygiene.
Who's the founder of Implant Direct? Jerry Niznik.
Yes.
We had him on the show.
Yeah.
Oh my God. He started 3 implant companies?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable.
But it's just, it's whatever you like in your hands. It doesn't matter.
Right.
An implant is going to do what an implant's going to do. It's just what you prefer. It's like, do you like Ford or Chevy? Are they both going to get you from point A to point B? Yes.
A Chevy will?
I know, right?
Really?
But,
really? Has she been drinking?
Yeah.
It's same with implants. It's just whatever you like. But you have to watch the economics because you can eat yourself alive and you're just spinning your wheel if you don't watch the economics of how much some of the implants cost.
So is Cum Laude a lower price implant?
No, Cum Laude is a high priced implant.
Well, you feel like your failure rates.
My failure rate's way less. I've done pretty good studies. And
what do you think causes failures? When something fails, is it surprising? Is it like, wow, I can't believe my implant on the yoga instructor eating tofu failed, versus, oh yeah, he's a freaking chain smoking alcoholic?
98% of them are, they're gonna. 98% of them, there's chew all around the threads the whole time. Yeah, like tobacco. They
really?
smoke 5 packs a day. Oh,
really?
Yeah.
This is news. You heard it first on Dentistry Uncensored.
Or congenitally missing teeth. That kind of surprised me. There's not good blood supply to that bone. A tooth didn't form there for a reason. How come? There's no tooth sac? Well, there's no blood supply either. So
congenitally missing teeth.
Yeah.
And the smoking. The problem when you say chewing tobacco and smokers, do you think alcoholism hurts it?
Absolutely.
I don't know if I'm jaded, but around here, the yoga instructor never loses a tooth. The personal trainer lady doesn't have any gingivitis.
So that's why
everybody that needs me the most has issues with tobacco and alcohol.
Why are you placing an implant? Because they didn't take care of themselves. Because they didn't take care of their teeth. So you're putting a titanium man-made object into a body that they already killed their own body, essentially. You know what I mean? Now So
does it make you just not because I think the two gods of lightning and thunder fighting, would actually be the late Carl Misch and his brother Craig, two of the most genius implantologists that I know of. Amazing. Carl would put him in smoking, drinking alcoholics because he said they need a doctor too. Craig said, I won't do it.
I put him in anybody that I have enough bone to put it. That's why I like minis, because I've gotten a lot of implant patients from people that have been told there's no hope for them. You can't have implants. We can't do it. You don't have enough bone. And
she'll do it every time.
I love to do it.
She don't turn it away.
And knock on wood, I've not had one. Yeah, I have not had one mini implant fail. And those patients, they go from the floating, horrible lower denture to a beautiful locked in.
Well, and one of the reasons mini implants hardly fails because if you did a histology examination cross section, the histologists say, well, it failed, it didn't integrate. But this bone is so wood
solid
that a completely failed mini implant down here in this wood bone
still there
can still work for a long time. But when you start getting into posterior mandible, it goes from oak wood to balsa.
Yeah.
And then the upper front's more like styrofoam.
But you have
and
to.
then the sinus is pretty much.
Well, where 98% of my mini implants in the lower anterior mandible.
Where even if they fail, grandma still loves them.
Yep. I've seen very, very few fail. Very, very few.
Yeah.
And most of them were placed maybe 13, not placed by me, they were placed 13, 20 years ago, and they broke.
So you recommend that they get the Park Dental mini implant.
Yeah, but like I said, do whatever
And-
you want, what works in your hands and what you enjoy.
Yeah, but they it's confusing. There's at the last ADA meeting, I think there was 150 different implant vendors. Italy alone has 200 different implant companies. And whenever you see a cluster like that, it's like what is a tennis racket made out of? What's that called? That material?
I'm guessing aluminum.
Fiberglass.
Oh, fiberglass?
Like for some reason, Taiwan got into fiberglass, and almost everything in fiberglass made in Taiwan. So Italy had a very robust titanium industry. So it was very, very easy for any dentist, periodontist, oral surgeon to go to some vendor and say, "Make me one." So they have 200 different companies. So one of the problems these girls have is they say, "Come on, man, you've been doing it 10 years. I just got out of dental kindergarten. I don't want to go evaluate 150 different systems. What do you use?"
Well, and I would say pick what you like and stick with it. Don't even change like connection types, because now you have so many parts and pieces. I know what it all means, but when you have staff turnover, so cam log has cone log. So now I need a cam log abutment. They give me a cone log abutment. They don't fit. The connection doesn't go, So pick one system and stick with it. There's lots of places that are like, well, we place 5 different types of implants, and you go to restore, that's a nightmare.
And what is your average implant case? Is it a single tooth replacement? Is it 2 implants and an overdenture? Is
Most
it all
of
on
them,
4? What
most of our cases, we're doing multiple implants in one patient.
multiple singles for single missing teeth?
Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of single lately,
Yeah.
yes.
If a lady comes in and has canine to canine, or no, first buy to first buy, and she wants something back, would you do 2 implants and a 3-unit bridge, or would you do 3 implants and 3 singles?
That's so dependent on their cash flow, on how much they want to invest. If it was my choice, I do all single units so that they can floss and clean around them. But also there's usually an issue with bone or spacing, almost always. So there's a nerve in the way, or we don't have enough bone to put 3 singles, or you don't have enough bone in between each implant, So oftentimes.
So are you evaluating this on a CBCT?
Yes.
Because I thought you were Wonder Woman and had X-ray vision.
Well,
Used to be that way.
It used to be that way. I'm not Wonder Woman anymore. Now I have a cone beam, but
So what cone beam did you go with?
the Instrumentarium OP300.
And how about that guy? The Instrumentarium. Can
It
you
was
send me
about 100,000.
A
Instrumentarium?
little over, like
What is it?
It's like
Instrumentarium?
107,000. Yeah.
What was the numbers on it? Instrumentarium.
OP300
OP300.
Maxio.
OP
300
300
Maxio.
Maxio.
That just gives you the largest field of view.
Or Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Nope, just OP.
C-3PO?
OPP, you know me.
OP.
Yeah.
What did the song did you say?
Is it OPP, you know me?
What is that song?
That's a song.
Yeah, what,
I have no idea.
I actually, that's on my playlist. What is that song, Ryan? OPP? Naughty by Nature, OPP.
Yeah. It's a good tune. Yeah.
We have to, that is an awesome workout tune. But anyway, so, and that set you back 100?
It's 107.
Yeah.
107, and buyer's remorse, glad you bought it?
Oh, glad we bought it. Yeah, for sure. We use it for more than just implants. Lots of sinus infections, implants, failed implants. Should we do, or excuse me, not failed implants, endo. Should we do endo? Should we just pull it? graft it, do an
Ryan,
implant.
shoot me an email to me and Jason Hells. If I put in just Jay, he's been on the show. I think his email starts with JH, but we need to get that rhinologist on the phone. There's more and more rhinologists every day across the country where someone always goes through their whole life thinking they have allergies.
Mm-hmm.
And then they finally get to, a rhinologist, and they scope up there, and there's a chronic failing molar endo into the sinus, and there's white fungus, and he's shown pictures of this stuff, and
All the
it's
time.
just crazy. And really intelligent protocol should be on every chart. They say, do you have sinus problems? And then if they say yes, the next question is, do you have any upper root canals on your second bicuspid, first or second molar? And, the nerve of the tooth is gone, and she doesn't know it, and for 20 years it's just leaking crap into the sinus. And what's funny is when you go to a sinus lift, the dentist, it's kind of a religion. So we go to the Church of Odontology. So enamel and dentin are sacred. And screw the sinus. We'll do a sinus lift, pack it with cow bone, paper clips, BMP. Who gives a shit? It's just a sinus. Then you go to the rhinologist, and they're like, the sinus is sacred. And I had one kind of almost chew me out at the gym, saying, what's wrong with you guys? What's wrong with you? What is this sinus lift bullshit? And then they're telling me what they're seeing. And I said, well, looks like we have a communication problem.
Absolutely.
And we need to get you on the show, and you guys need to build some online CE course and show us what's going on.
Absolutely.
Because it's pretty sad to think that Mrs. Jones was eating, what's that common antihistamine that they all use?
Claritin.
Claritin. She's been on Claritin for 20 years thinking that everything's blooming, and she has chronic failing. So,
well, in that respect, though, so I'll take a CT, we'll send it with the patient and say, hey, you don't have a tooth problem, you have a sinus problem. They'll go to their ENT, and guess what the ENT says?
What?
This is from a dentist. They don't know what they're talking about. All the time I get that.
And do they have a 3D x-ray of it?
Well, not yet, but now they go send for another one that costs the patient, instead of my, couple $100 CT, now it's a couple $1,000. They get a different one, and then they're like, oh, yeah, you do have a sinus problem. How did your dentist know that? Well, I sent you a disc of it, but they won't even look at it because it came from a dentist.
The most, I'm so proud of my dentist, the vets, and the chiropractors compared to the physicians. I mean, in every measurement from, you go to every physician's website. They don't even have an email contact. They don't even have it looks like a 6-year-old made the website. You go to a physician's office, they all still have the glass walls. They slide over, and some dysfunctional woman hands you a chart without making eye contact. They're not on social media. They're not available. I mean, they're just.
Well, they're one step above the rest of us, so they don't have
in their own mind.
Yes.
It's amazing how they think they're all that in a bag of chips when when the Centers for Disease Control says 200,000 Americans die in their system every year. Mm-hmm. I believe 9/11 was 3,200.
Yeah, about that.
About 3,200, but the MDs kill 200,000 people a year. And what it is, it's this culture where news doesn't want to talk about it because it's all like, St. Francis Hospital, St. the Lutheran, they're just given this pass because everybody just thinks they're trying real hard. And you go to Intel and you want to go see where the chips are made for this phone. You take off all your clothes, you take a shower, you go to a next room, you put on this deal. The air is filtered to less than 1 part per billion, and none of their chips fail. Then you go across the street to Chandler Hospital, and the surgeon and the nurses all show up in Nike tennis shoes, walk through bird shit, water, leaves, dirt, the lawn, and then go up there and for some religious reason wash their hands for like 15 minutes, like some priest with incense and frankincense and myrrh, and then fillets open grandma in a room just filled with infection. And then 200,000 Americans die of iatrogenic infections, and they don't even look in the mirror and realize that they're one of the number one killer in America is heart disease. Number 2 is cancer. And number 3 is MDs. And they think there are saviors and there are killers. And then grandma passes out in the a Safeway, and the ambulance shows up, and they're on 3,600 different software systems. The ambulance doesn't know that Jimmy Garcia is an insulin-dependent diabetic. You don't know what meds they're on. I mean, the MDs...
They take the car accident to one hospital. The car goes to a whole nother city. We just had that yesterday. Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, the MDs, I mean, they're almost as pathetic as Congress and the media.
It's scary.
They're like a three-way tie for Dumb and Dumber. Or what is the Three Stooges? Mo, Curly, and...
We don't trust our kids or ourselves to go to most doctors. We just do it ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like building a house or anything
Well, you know
else.
what's funny is it's a historical deal. When you go back in the literature, I mean, the early hospitals were called sanitariums, and all the intelligent people wouldn't go there. Because you would go in there and they'd amputate a gangrene foot, then turn around and deliver your baby, then you die of gangrene. And all the smart people were like, you know, we just have our babies at home. We don't have this problem. And you go back every 100 years back, the smartest people never went to the witch doctor. They never went to the sanitariums. And now, you know, when a dentist goes to the physician, he says, hey, you got high blood pressure, and I want you to take this pill. And you have high cholesterol, I want you to take this pill. Dentists are like, no, I'm not buying into your pill systems. I finally need to get off my ass, change my diet, join a gym, start jogging every morning. I'm not going to get into your polypharmacy.
Right.
By the time you're on 5 prescription pills, you know, you're just basically falling apart.
No.
Yeah. So implants. What are you restoring with? Are you CAD camming single units?
No, I'm not a big. As you know, I barely turn on the computer. I'm not a big software junkie per se. Traditional, take a PVS impression and send it to the lab.
PVS, polyvinyl siloxane. What are you using?
Oh, I think it's Take One.
Take One from who makes that?
Probably 3M.
Now, see, I use 3M polyether.
No, you don't.
Impergum.
For reals?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Same. I know what you're saying, yeah.
And, you know, it's
That's
funny.
just in the big machines.
It's funny, the head of 3M Dental was here, which was so cool. I mean, he sold it last year, $1.1 billion. But, you know, they want me, you know, to replace my $17 Impergum impression that's never failed for 30 years.
With your $150,000.
With a $17,000, what is it? What is their 3M's oral scanner? What is it?
I know what you're saying.
True definition.
Yeah.
And then go from being able to send it to any lab on earth to just a few labs, and then the contract to have it for the software maintenance is $200 a month.
Yeah.
Shit, I don't even use $200 of Impergum. What would $200?
It's a lot of freaking Impergum.
So $200 divided by $17 is 12 impressions. So I get 12 impressions. So you're not scanning your impressions either. Mm-mm. And you know, these dentists, they always whine that they come out of school $350,000 in student loans. Yep. But the first thing to do is buy a $150,000 CEREC machine instead of a $17 Impergum impression. And then they buy a $100,000 laser. So I want to ask you about that. Millennium, LANAP, the research is pretty consistent on the American Academy of Periodontology website that at 5 years, 20% of implants have peri-implantitis, and at 9 years, it's between 40 and 60%, depending on which study you're.
Absolutely. Who do you put implants into? What patients? Perio
Irish
patients?
and the Irish who are drinking whiskey, smoking, and drinking, and the Russians who are doing vodka, smoking, and drinking.
60% of the time from perio. So absolutely, I agree with that.
So what is your protocol to treat peri-implantitis? Are you using a laser?
Yeah, we have some lasers.
Which laser?
iLase.
Ryan,
which is made by BioLase. And I want to say the iLases are like under $5,000. Soft tissue laser. The other one is Epic.
Is it a diode
I believe
laser?
So, yeah.
Okay, and the other one is what?
Epic, which is also made by BioLase, which is probably right about $5,000 as well. But I use those to uncover after the implant's placed as well if it didn't have a.
But you laser around peri-implantitis, and the people who use LANAP buy a 130. The laser's between 70,000 and 135,000, depending on how much training you get with it.
Crazy to me. I think I'm gonna get the same results.
So you think a laser is a laser is a laser?
a wavelength than continuous pulse, or yeah, it's the same. Yeah, you program it how you want it.
On the iLace or the Epic?
The Epic, you can have personal settings.
Does BioLace
programmed?
Does BioLace say that the iLace and the Epic is used for peri-implantitis? I mean, do they make that claim?
I would imagine they do, yeah.
So let's look. Instrumentarium. Okay, that's your CBCT.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's by Cavo, which is owned by Danaher, which is now the largest dental company in the world. If you're at Chicago Midwinter, here they are. I just retweeted their... my homies follow me on Twitter because they're driving right now.
Which they need to work on their reliability of that instrumentarium. We've had some issues
with the
CBCT.
CBCT?
Yeah. But it's
what kind of issues have you had?
Like computer components, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're saying the iLace is the first personal laser that packs power and portability into a tiny deal, used by BioLace's patented line of non-initiated tips for faster clinical results. They're selling a personal laser, versatility, clinically convenient, power that lasts, affordable, wavelength 940 nanometers, pulse modes, but I don't see any claims for. But you feel that it's is it your go-to protocol for peri-implantitis?
Yep. Use the laser, yeah. The Epic I prefer. It's a little more powerful. The Epic has more pre-controlled, where you can pick implant, recovery or perio setting, or frenectomies. It's really good for frenectomies.
Okay, so you sorry to ask this personal question, but at least you're a husband's here. It's very controversial. A lot of mothers you've had 2 children. May I ask if you nurse the children?
Both of them.
Both of them. A lot of now that when you have a baby in there, a trainer comes in and tries to give you an hour CE about nursing, and a lot of those people are seeing these tongue-tied.
Frenums
and
too tight,
they're
and
saying
they
you need
latch.
to go laze that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a controversial deal. Some people are saying, well, how come we've been nursing for 2 million years and grew from a couple thousand to 7.5 billion, and now all of a sudden everyone's. Do you think that's overkill? Do you see that's place?
I think people are lazier now.
Have you ever lazed a child's tongue so he can nurse better?
No, not for nursing. More for speech pathology. When they get to that age where they're not enunciating their, syllables, then it's like, oh yeah, they're tongue-tied. Their speech isn't good. But a lot of it's laziness.
So
honestly.
Do you do more frenectomies or more tongue ties?
Frenectomies.
Frenectomies.
Mm-hmm.
And why are you doing most of these frenectomies?
Diastemas between 8 and 9, or
diastemas or diastemas. Depends on what part of the country.
Tomato or tomato.
It's barbiturates here, and in New York, it's barbiturates.
Barbiturates, yeah. Or lower anterior recession, like after ortho.
Right.
You're advancing the teeth to the facial, so then you got that frenum pulling, then you got recession. Recession, a lot on the lowers.
So this peri-implantitis, what is your failure rate at implants at 5 years? What is it at 9 years?
At 5 years, I don't have those statistics exactly, but
what would you guess?
75%.
Failure rate?
No, success.
So 25% implant failure rate.
5 years, I would say, yeah. And I place them in people that most people would not place.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite end of the spectrum where they're
There's
like.
No way it's close to it.
You don't think that?
No.
I don't know. I'm totally making it up.
No.
So what do you think it is?
There's very few. I mean, I don't know. It's not that.
But after 5 years.
Yeah, after 5 years.
Unfortunately, after 5 years, half of them are dead, or we never see them again. I mean, that's the truth behind it.
Yeah.
We don't have very many failures.
I've seen it both ways. People sometimes they do change. I mean, I had a patient where he never took care of himself. We did a bunch of dentistry, and he he turned a new leaf. And then one of my biggest failure rates, my biggest failure rate for the last 30 years, I didn't even know what was causing it. I wasn't aware of meth mouth. 15, 20 years ago. It's very isolated out
Well, we
here.
have soda mouth, same as meth mouth.
And or is it Mountain Dew mouth or is it soda?
Any soda. Or Gatorade, Powerade does the same thing, just takes longer, but it's all acidic.
Yeah.
All the sugar-free drinks that are supposedly healthy are not healthy. Monster Energy, Rockstar.
My friends in Bakersfield told me that for some reason, like, meth took over Bakersfield like
Same
10
as
years
Kingman.
ago.
Kingman's considered like meth capital country, I think.
What are some signs? What my dad give away is stimulants like caffeine, nicotine, amphetamine work out through your skin, so they always have sores. Some things work out through your skin, some kidneys, some liver, some. But if you think they're scratching, I mean, they just have a certain look. But with that look, it's removable. I mean, the first case I ever did, this poor kid come in, and his dad paid for it all, and I basically root canaled and crowned like almost all of his teeth, and it just looked gorgeous. And we cleaned him, and he was all, he's all so happy and everything.
For about 2 years.
And he relapsed, and the next time I saw him, it wasn't recurrent decay; it was just mush.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just mush. You could just, it was like, oh my, it was hard to extract the teeth.
Yeah.
And it was, the biggest waste of money.
Because you're
and that was,
and
that, who that patient was? That was Ryan. And oh no, it was another Ryan. And it's so that's killer. So do you? We've been talking about implants a lot. What are your what other things you do? Do you do, and what things do you not do? Do you do molar endo? Do you Invisalign?
I don't.
What are your do's and don'ts?
I don't enjoy endo. That's why I have an endodontist come in and do it for me.
And how many days a week?
He's there 1 day a week.
And so when someone comes with a toothache, you just give him antibiotics, pain meds till he's in? Or,
for the most part, or sometimes
what
I'll access open it. It depends on the severity.
It just doesn't seem that you would love implants.
And not like endo?
I mean, it seems to me you're either blood and guts and love pulling teeth, placing implants, and endo.
Most of the time, the teeth are too far gone. So there's gross we have meth mouth. We have soda mouth. So the caries is so subgingival. I'm going to do crown lengthening, endo, build up crown, post. What's that going to cost? $2,500? What's going to happen? 2 years from now, it's going to be rotted out and I'm going to have mush. Pull it, do an implant. They'll have it the rest of their life.
Yeah. So so you don't do endo?
I don't enjoy doing endo.
And the endodontist comes in once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Are you allowed to say you pay? Is it like what percent?
50% of...
You split it 50-50?
Yep. And there's no other endodontist in the town, so all the other offices refer to him. And
in your office?
Mm-hmm.
That's high self-esteem, too. Mm-hmm. Send your patient to another general dentist that has an endodontist. Mm-hmm. Do a lot of them stay with you afterwards?
No. Mm-hmm. I'd say we work really hard to keep them going back to their office.
Yeah.
We're pretty much capped out with how much we can handle of our own. So
kids go rural. What I don't understand about these kids, they go, I don't want to go to Kingman. It's like your mom came from India.
I've been looking for an associate to come work in my office, a general dentist associate, and they all want to stay in the city.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to stay in the city. I don't understand it at all. I'm like, you can come here.
And what I don't understand is I know so many people who go do 4 10-hour days Monday through Thursday in like Bakersfield. And they're so wealthy that Thursday night they go to the airport and get in their Cessna double prop and fly into Orange County and have a $1 million condo on the ocean and party like a rock star for 3 days. But the dentists who have the office right looking out of the ocean, on the weekends they're selling Amway and part-time jobs as a bartender because they practice in an area that is a dentist for every 350 people.
Exactly.
I mean, just...
So we live and work hard in our town, but we love it. It's a beautiful area for us, great place to raise kids. But we travel a lot. So we go travel to the beautiful places when we can enjoy them and do nothing but enjoy them.
But you were born in Kingman.
Correct.
And this is what the deans and the Pew Research Center does. They agree. They think that if you double the number of dentists, it'll force them to go rural. And the bottom line is, I've been telling them this for 30 years, that
not gonna happen.
everybody in my graduating class that went back to a small town, they were born in that small town.
Yeah.
And if you fill up your class with who has the highest 4.0 in DAT score, and you got all these kids from downtown LA and Phoenix and Manhattan, they all stay there because it's all you know. It's like there's no such thing as good food. If you're born and raised in India, you think curry's good. If you're born and raised in the United States, you need salt and pepper. If you're born in Mexico, it's salsa. You're born in Kansas, it's ketchup. There's salsa, ketchup, what tastes better? There's no right or wrong. It's what did your mama stick in your mouth when you were a baby, and that's your comfort food. Right. And if Pew Research and these dental school deans are really concerned about rural, they should quit accepting kids based on their stupid scores in algebra and calculus and geometry, which I want a refund back from all those courses I took. I mean, when I think of how many thousands of hours I stayed in the library studying algebra, calculus, trig, and geometry when I could have been reading history books and all these other things that would have mattered. And I wasted so many millions of hours on shit that doesn't matter. And if they would just say, well, if you want kids to go on the Indian reservation, what do? Accept Indians from the Navajo Indian reservation.
Right.
We say, but you need to have a 4.0. It's like, screw that. Nobody born in Scottsdale is going to go live the rest of their life in Tuba City, let alone speak Navajo.
Right.
So find out, Pew's always posting all these research sales from all these towns that don't have dentists. Why don't they just go to those high schools, say, who wants to be a dentist?
Well, isn't that where the Pew Foundation's pushing the whole Dental Therapist Act?
And what are your thoughts on that?
I'm a little concerned, only because I know when I went to college for 8 years, I came out knowing most of what I learned was not from dental school. Most of what I learned was from working in the dental field, hands-on. I'm concerned that people think they can go to school for 5 years, they're going to come out, and they're going to be able to do these supposedly simple procedures. Unfortunately, how many simple extractions did you start doing that you go, oh shit, that's not simple. Now I've got a hole in the sinus, or now the whole facial plate broke off, or what it looks like on the x-ray is not really what happens, right? I mean, that happens.
The most fun in nerds is when you pull number 2 and the whole tuberosity comes out.
Right, and that happens.
That's got to make I don't know what can make your day better than that.
I mean,
you're just like, no big deal. Let me just go change my underwear and I'll be right back.
But everybody's going to say, oh, that doesn't happen. Baloney, the best of the best, that happens to. Everything's taboo to say, oh, that doesn't happen to me. Yes, it does.
But I have a whole different twist on dental therapists, and I don't want to talk about it because the hate mail from it is off the charts. I mean, it's one of those things that... but this is Dentistry Uncensored.
Well, it can be good, it can be bad.
So when hygienists wanted to have their own place to practice, for the better part of my 30 years, for 20 years, it was only really in Colorado. I could only find 7 people who did that. They were all in a town of 1,000. You can't afford to have land, building equipment, computers for cleanings.
Exactly.
So they go in their front room, like, this is my dining room, and since we never used it from 2005 to 2018, and we're a bachelor pad, we figured, shit, make it a podcast studio. They got rid of their dining room table, and I don't know what a china closet is, where you have dishes on display that,
a waste of space.
You don't even cook. If you want to hide anything from an American, just put it in the oven, and no one will find it. And they put a dental chair there. And so they had no overhead, they had no employees. People come and do a cleaning, and if she saw something, she'd write a note, and then you would drive into town and see Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith thought it was the greatest thing on earth. He's like, oh my God, she's a hygienist. I mean, every time she finds something, it's a crown, it's a root canal. I mean, she gets it right all the time. And some of them didn't even have x-ray machines, and they would send them up, once a year to get an FMX. They all loved it. So on this dental therapist thing, well, Bob Barkley, when he went around the country trying to build the hygiene department, like when I got out of school in 87, the first time I lectured in Australia, they didn't have hygiene schools. It's a new thing over the last 30 years. When Bob Barkley was doing it in the United States, all the dentists like, I don't got time for this bullshit. I'm so booked up doing immediate dentures. And what do you want me to do? Hire some hygienist to what? Get that shit out of here. And Barkley... he's really credited for talking to these guys saying, hey, do you want your kid to grow up and need an immediate denture? Why don't we start preventing immediate dentures? But the business model was immediate dentures. And so now when I go to these places that have dental therapists, I mean, what I see is the dentists love it. Because now I got a hygienist and 2 hygienists. And then I got dental therapists doing all my restorative, which they're burned out of after.
Right.
How you've been practicing 10 years? You still get excited about an MOD
No,
filling?
I hate doing restorative.
See, you say you hate doing restorative.
I would love for a dental therapist to come do all my restorative.
I know. And I know a guy that has dental therapist with an expanded duty function assistant. He doesn't numb. He doesn't drill. He doesn't fill. He doesn't even check it when it's done.
No, my hygienist numb.
He's got a hygienist doing the cleanings, dental therapist doing the restorative. So what's he doing? Root canals, implants. He's doing everything a dental therapist can't.
Right.
Now, when you say that, you're a traitor to the cause. You're
it can definitely
evil.
it can definitely be used for a positive good.
Well,
the problem is the overhead.
Well, let me say the other thing is there's 1 million MDs. They went down this physician's assistant. So it's a 4-year registered nurse is 4 years like our hygienist. The MD is 8 years like the dentist, and the PA is 6 years. Well, I don't know. I don't have one MD friend in Ahwatukee who doesn't love their PA.
Right.
I don't have one.
No, the only...
But you say that to dentists, and you're not allowed to drink with them anymore.
It's because they feel threatened. Most dentists feel threatened by that. But why would you be threatened? Because they're not going to have... Most of them aren't going to have the interest in doing the cases that you do. You're interested in 2 different things. I'm not interested in MOD fillings. They are. Make sense? And the insurance company isn't going to want to pay the same to a dentist versus a dental therapist, right? Your pay scale is going to be different.
Is it? I'm not. I haven't heard of that.
No, it's going to be the same. So then maybe.
But I would say this should give me the most hate mail. The dental therapists do better fillings than the dentist, and you know why? Because she schedules an hour to do one.
Yeah.
And if it's an amalgam, it's got anatomy, polish. What does the dentist do? If he's got an hour, he tries to do the whole quadrant.
Absolutely.
So you're a dentist. You don't have time for this bullshit restorative dentistry. So you're in there doing the whole quadrant. And the thing is, when you're doing a quadrant of MOD composites, there's not really any shortcuts. I mean, it's a time-consuming deal.
It's a very time-consuming process,
You can't do other stuff. You got to sit numb, rubber dam, prep, isolate, one at a time. I can't do snappy contacts with 4 MODs next to you. I can't do it ever.
No.
So you got to do one at a time, and it's basically you go in that operatory at 2 o'clock with 4 MOD composites and arch, and you're going to be working your ass off till 3.
Exactly.
But that dental therapist, hell, she'd schedule 2 hours for that. I don't want to do it.
Maybe how can you afford to get paid for one filling for 2 hours or an hour? One filling in 1 hour.
Well, what do you get for an MOD composite?
How is the operatory going to afford that?
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those deals. If you're on a PPO, I mean, you got to know your overhead. I mean, it's my book, People, Time, and Money. I mean, you got to know the cost of the operatory. I mean, Southwest Airlines takes every single cost they have and puts it in the common denominator of flying a seat through the air for an hour.
Right.
So you have a no-show cancellation. Was there a cost flying that seat through the plane for an hour? Yes. I mean, it wasn't pulled by the tooth fairy on a unicorn with sprinkle dust. And so if you can get these dentists to sit there and take all their costs like we do at Art Today's Dental every month and divide it by the number of chairs per hour, so you know what that chair costs you per hour, and then you know what that fee is, that's the only way you schedule.
Exactly.
But they can't do that because they use Dentrix and EagleSoft, which isn't hooked up to accounting. So they have this schizophrenic accounting system where Dentrix and EagleSoft does all the insurance and billing and all this stuff. But all your payables, receivables, rent, mortgage, equipment, labor, computer, insurance, why would we need that data? Because if your receptionist scheduled Chip, and Chip has this insurance, and she schedules for an MOD, and that computer knows what that operatory costs and can turn red and say, well, you schedule an hour for that, you'll lose $27.18. So she moves down to 45 minutes, and it says, now you're doing it for free. She moves down to 30 minutes, now you're going to make $30. But see, we don't have that. And when people tell me, oh, I love Dentrix.
That's exactly what we need.
I mean, that's like saying that you love Mountain Dew and cigarettes. I mean, your number one problem
Yep.
is Dentrix and EagleSoft. And trust me, I have gone to Provo, Utah and talked to the founder of that back in the day. I've flown to Effingham and talked to the people at EagleSoft. I've flown to Melville, New York, and begged Stan Bergman. I mean, I begged him like a child. I went to Minneapolis, St. Paul to Pete Frechette. I begged him, and I finally got it. You know how I got it? I was in the headquarters of Patterson with my idol mentor. I love Pete Frechette. He was one of the greatest guys ever. But he was sitting there in his office, and I realized, there's no computer in this room. And he had these, what was that American Rainbow tablet? Remember those?
Yeah.
When we were little? And he had a very sharpened number 2 pencil, and he's taking notes. I'm like, oh my God, he's taking notes with a number 2 sharpened pencil on an American Rainbow tablet, and I'm trying to get him. But you know who I really can't stand the most about that issue? It was gosh darn Bill Clinton. My biggest beef with Bill Clinton was not Chunky the file clerk. It was the fact that he blocked Microsoft from buying Insight, which owns Quicken. So you would have had a standard, instead of just having Word and Excel and PowerPoint, Bill Gates knew that small businesses, their number one problem on a farm is they don't know their cost. And he wanted to buy that, and frickin' Bill Clinton, who never owned his own business, I mean, you know, he just, if he'd have been spending less time with Chunky the file clerk and more time with small businesses, especially just dental office.
Right.
I mean, I have yet to walk into a dental office in my entire life and say, hey, you just did a hygiene check. You said a cleaning, exam, and bite wings. Did you make $9.12 after taxes and EBITDA? Or did you lose $3?
Exactly.
There's like, cow shit I know. Well, cow shit you don't know because of Bill Clinton. And I still think Microsoft, which I think is one of the best long-term companies in the world, because when you go back to the 94 to March 2000 internet bubble stock, the 4 ringleaders were Microsoft, Intel, Oracle, and Dell. Or Cisco and Dell. And Oracle to some extent. And then that bubble popped. So now we're into the new bubble, which we're in bubble territory, and this baby's coming down. It's been a decade since 2008. But who are the players again? Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Microsoft. They're in, and you look at Facebook and Google. It's like 98% of the revenue comes from ads. Mm-hmm. Microsoft has 7 diverse groups. They just bought LinkedIn. I mean, they're so diversified, and God dang, I wish they would go back and pick up Intuit. And I'm sure if I sent them a letter, I'd get a PR email back like I do when you send one to the president. I used to write Obama all these, just the greatest ideas in the world that he could do, and didn't even get a reform deal. But yeah, Microsoft needs to do that.
I think that
because small business, I mean, I only know 2 things. I only know raising 4 boys, dentistry, and business. Those are my 3 areas. And my God, dentists don't know their cost. And they not only do not know their cost, but most of them are taking a dozen different insurance plans. So, you know, when you come in, when you go to Kingman and you go to 7-Eleven, Circle K, they say, yeah, this is $1. We buy it for 80 cents and we sell it for $1. We make 20 cents. Here's a dentist. I have no idea what I bought it for. I have no idea the cost. And I sell it for 12 different prices. Then you say, well, look at your prices. This filling goes anywhere from $100 to $200. So do you think you have 50% overhead? Oh, hell no. Okay, well, at $200 to $100, and you don't have 50% overhead. If you did have 50% overhead, this one for $100 you'd be doing free. Mm-hmm. But you don't have 50% overhead. So don't you think maybe you might be losing a $20 bill every time you do that? Mm-hmm. And they say, yeah, probably. I say, so why don't you drop that? Well, I don't know, because my kid's teacher, she asked us to take this insurance, and that's who teaches my kid. So if you walked up to your teacher, would she just give you a $20 bill?
Yeah, I mean, you can still have them as patients. They're just out of network.
Yeah, it's so
keep your fees.
So what about ortho? You do ortho?
Yes.
What do you do?
All of it.
All of it. Invisalign or clear aligners?
Mostly not clear aligners. Mostly band and brackets.
You know what's amazing is every orthodontist, I think I've had the 25 greatest orthodontists, as defined by the busiest guys on the lecture circuit with a very successful office. all of them say they're 80-20. They're 80% fixed, and the only time they're doing a 20 is when the patient
forces you
grabs the
into
tail and shaking the dog.
Yes.
They all prefer fixed,
Yeah.
but you prefer fixed.
I prefer fixed, just because you get the results that I want, but that's not necessarily what the patient cares about.
And back to Kingman, what percent of the boys who are chewing tobacco are compliant with their wearing their aligners?
Very few.
Yeah, and you say that, and you're a racist, sexist pig, but I mean, when a boy has a burger hanging out of his nose, his hair's bound up, and he's wearing the same U of A shirt for 3 days, I want control.
Look bad. Yeah,
I want control. I want to glue all that on so I don't have to worry for Frankenstein to wear his clear aligners. And he didn't even want them in the first place. Who's wanting them? Mom. Because she wants them to reproduce, have offspring, and make a grandchild. I mean, it just comes down to that.
Exactly.
So, what ortho system are you using?
Like what brackets?
Yeah, what system?
I started with 6 month smiles, and they'll actually set the brackets for you. And now I transitioned more into just placing my own brackets, using self-ligating brackets. I like those a lot.
But what company? What
Put
self-ligating
me on
bracket?
I'll think of it here in a minute. See, I don't order this stuff. Somebody else
Right.
does that for me.
Right. You like the self-ligating brackets?
Yeah, Carrier. What is it? I like the Carrier motion appliance.
Carrier Motion Appliance. We had him on the show.
Yeah.
Where's he from? Carrier.
He's a hoot, isn't he?
I love that guy. Spain?
Yeah, it is Spain.
Yeah.
Carrier.
Yeah. What I think he sells those through Henry Schein, doesn't he? Henry
Correct.
Schein.
Lewis Carrier, yeah.
Lewis
Yep.
Carrier. What show was that?
That was 448.
448. And that's from Henry Schein Orthodontics, which has really gotten huge in ortho.
They own everything and implants too. They're
So-
huge
so
in ortho
why-
and implants.
So why do you like the self-ligating?
Well, there's less resistance on the wire, so the teeth can slide easier. So if you have a elastic on the bracket, the elastic is holding the wire or the tooth to the wire so it doesn't slide as much. There's so much resistance. If you have a self-ligating bracket, the tooth can freely move on the wire. Shortens up your treatment times huge.
And are you using any orthodontic accelerators? They have those vibrating devices. They have,
No, I don't use any of those. But yeah.
and then they have that other one. The
drill a whole bunch of little holes in between
the
the
micro.
bone and-
What company was that?
I don't know.
But you're not buying that.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how many people are going to be like, yeah, go ahead, put a whole bunch of pinholes in my facial plate and my teeth will
Yeah, but
move
you like
faster."
surgery. You like blood and guts. So I figured you just do it because
For
you just
fun?
wanted a chance
Yeah.
to cause more blood.
I don't think you're going to get much case acceptance
Gosh,
on
what about dental insurance plans?
that.
You take Medicaid, Medicare,
No.
PPOs, Delta.
We take, I don't know, some of the bigger traditional
Delta.
insurances, yeah, Delta and Blue Cross Blue Shield and stuff like that. But as an associate, I worked with some of the other state-funded plans, I suppose, and that wasn't my cup of tea.
Ryan, did we do a podcast with somebody who's in the Congress from Kingman or Bullhead City? Who's that woman dentist?
It's Regina Cobb,
Yeah, Regina Cobb. What city is she from?
Kingman.
Kingman. So are you going to be the next congressman from Kingman?
No, thank you.
So that's a pretty unique story to be a dentist and a congressman. Is that
That was her goal. She likes politics. She was with the Arizona Dental Board for a long time, and then from there she moved on to bigger.
Did you
better
see her
things.
podcast?
Probably not.
Oh my God, I'm gonna email it to you.
Yeah.
It was 6:51. Dentistry, family, and politics with Regina Cobb. So she your drinking buddy?
Used to be. She's never in Kingman anymore.
Because she's busy. I mean,
She's busy.
I don't know how they. And then a congressman is a dentist out of Flagstaff, Paul Gosar.
Yep.
And I went to Creighton with him. We
Oh,
were
yeah?
both in the same dormitory.
Oh wow.
I saw that guy 100 times
Yeah.
in and out of the elevators. I was on the 9th floor and he was on the 8th floor. And then he went to Flagstaff, and now he's one of only 4 dentists who's a congressman. Paul Gosar here, and then there's one out of Idaho, Texas, and Georgia.
Yeah.
And I've asked them all to come on the show, and they're like, But you know what? I bet they'll all show up.
Well, they should. I mean.
But you know when they will. I'm
they need to
predicting.
get reelected.
And then you get reelected and
Yeah.
fundraise.
Yeah.
So you probably, because the one thing they say, the congressman always say, is that all politics is local and long-term memory is about 6 weeks. So what is this, February, and the election's November? So everything you're talking about today, no one will remember a thing.
Right.
So I bet you they're all going to, or at least some of them, I think they're all going to show up probably October.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm guessing. But, is there any other thing? Last question. You talk about, why is it taboo to talk numbers? No consistency, very poor business training in schools driving cost education.
It's the same
We
thing.
haven't had chip talk, but it seems to me that you're the dentist and Chip's the business. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So
Today, yeah. So I started as a startup. I invested I borrowed $100,000 to start my practice from scratch.
But why do you borrow $100,000? Because you were inherently wealthy. You inherited millions.
I started with in the negative zone, and we ran that equipment for a couple years, and then we didn't really have much overhead. I mean, our overhead was phenomenal. We probably made more money than we do now because we bought a CT and all new chairs and computers in every operatory, and
Right.
we spent all this money in technology. But as things got busier, I don't enjoy running the business side of it as much. I enjoy being in the operatory, doing, producing my passion. That's how we produce money faster. And he deals with the numbers and basically says, you're spending too much time doing this. You could be more productive or efficient doing that. Plus, I mean, we used to spend, when I first started printing guides, I was paying like $450 an arch for a guide.
A surgical guide
A
for an
surgical
implant.
guide. Now it's like $60.
Well, yeah.
Or
basically,
less.
yeah.
And what CBs? What did you buy? What 3D printing did you buy to print the?
So we actually outsource the 3D printing portion, but the guide's already built in the software, everything. You just basically send print to a printer off-site.
Is the printer in Kingman?
No,
Chicago.
Chicago.
So are you thinking about buying a 3D printer? What do they charge you to print?
Not
it?
really. It's too cheap to print it.
It's $43 shipped to us. So
Yeah, that's. And you're an engineer, right?
yeah, I'm a mechanical engineer.
Mechanical engineer. Do you is this a full-time job or you got a mechanical engineer? Because you used to work for a company in Kingman.
Yeah, I worked at a chemical lime plant, which was a mine, but it was
The lime plant. Is that near Selingman?
yeah. So it was over 60 miles.
My
from
son
the
told me
house.
to tell you when you came here today. He wants to know if you can get him on at the mine.
Oh, I could help him for sure.
Well, Eric and Greg. No, Greg. Greg desperately wants to get in that mine because he bought 40 acres in Selingman on the
Oh,
national
really?
park, and he's paid off. That's why he moved
Right.
back home
Right.
to pay that off.
Okay.
And so he's got 40 acres, but he really has 1,040 acres because he's on and it's just,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Every time you go there, there's elk, deer.
Right.
But the only place to really work is that mine.
Oh yeah.
But you think you can help him get on at the mine?
Oh yeah, for sure.
But anyway,
I
so now you're doing this full time?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't have my full time job, and so I spend what I can at the office, but also with the kids and their dirt bike stuff, we travel a lot, right? So it kind of just depends on the demand at the office,
Now, what advice would you give? Because a lot of people, it's like girls marry economically up, so boys have to marry down. So when 30% of the girls in dental school marry a dentist in their class, whereas 30% of the guys marry, the waitress at the Waffle House who's never going to have a job. And if women don't marry dentists, they marry engineers, lawyers. They always marry someone who has a professional job. And men more than likely always marry someone who's not going to do that. But I always say that let's say the spouse made $50,000 and the dentist was making $50,000, or let's say they each made $100,000. 1 + 1 = 3. When you're an employee somewhere, it's not like you own your own business. And whenever I've seen a spouse making $100, the dentist making $100, and they work the family business together, now combined they're making $300. So the fastest way your spouse can make 50% more money on the deal is because when you own your own business, you're in. You're totally motivated. You're dreaming about this shit in the middle of the night, and even when you're on vacation, your brain's still going. And how many times when you're on vacation, you guys listen to the podcasts and YouTube or going to CE courses?
Yeah.
What percent of the time? But what percent?
I'm always on them.
Yeah. So I always tell people, and they'll say, well, my husband, he's an engineer. Well, I don't care. He'll make more money owning his own business every single time.
Right.
I mean, that's what built the planet's economy.
If you're a driven
business.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
there's a lot of lazy
women
people.
always marry, women dentists always marry driven men. And driven men always marry what looks the nicest in a pair of Jordache jeans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they're thinking with a different brain.
I
It's not the
know.
same.
And they look so good in those
For a little
Jordache
while.
jeans for about 6 weeks.
Right.
And then you're like, now you're married, I mean.
That was one expensive pair of jeans you
Oh
bought.
my God! I just tell people, if you're going to do that, just don't sign a contract.
Yeah.
Can you just shack up with her and live in sin and go to hell when you die?
Yeah.
Do you really need to sign a contract and give her half of your money in 10 years? So what advice would you give a young couple?
Oh my.
Because you work together, you live together, and there's a lot at stake because you got 2 children, so you don't want to screw up the marriage when you got 2 children. So what advice have you learned? Was it the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? I mean, what advice would you give young married couples who are listening to this podcast on their commute to work?
Oh boy. I don't think you want my advice.
No,
Probably
we
ask
do.
him.
This is
You better
Dentistry
ask
Uncensored.
him.
Dentistry Uncensored. If you don't make them blush, I'm going to have to repeat the question.
You have to rate your priorities correctly. If your marriage isn't the first thing, you're not going to make it. You cannot rate your business or your success or your bank account above, for me, spiritually, marriage, then comes work in my career.
So just like that what's my favorite show? Palm Stars?
Porn stars?
What is that shop that old Pawn Stars? Pawn Stars up by your house. Up in Vegas. Have you ever seen that show?
Oh, Vegas thing.
Yeah.
We don't.
Anyway, he always says it. Family first, business second.
Yeah.
And that's the rule. So you say family first, business second.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now you said spiritual. Are you guys religious? Is that a big part of your?
I am. That's a very important part of me.
What about Chip?
She's working on
Chip's
that.
a work in progress.
So are you like an Orthodox religion or just spiritual? I mean, do you believe a certain creed at a certain church?
Not necessarily. I think there's a bigger being than 2 rocks came together and everything just happened. I mean,
the story's better. Nothing
nothing
condensed into
came to
something, exploded, bounced around,
Yeah,
and now you have
and it just
butterflies
happened.
and Rocky Road ice cream and me. and the Bill Maher people think that just makes sense.
Yeah.
And then when you tell Bill Maher, well, maybe there's a smarter being than the human being. Oh, well, that's just crazy. And I'm from the camp where, how the shit would I know?
That's what I was going to say. It
When
doesn't
people
matter.
ask me, I was like,
Doesn't
they're
matter.
asking me, I'm looking behind me like,
Does it matter if the chicken came first or the egg? Does it matter? No. You're happy that you had eggs in the morning, right? And you're happy you got to kill a chicken and you had some chicken nuggets. That's what matters, right?
yeah.
I mean, all I care is we live a healthy, moral, happy life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter to me if you're married or you have 10 women, whatever you need. But you have to feel like you treated one another with
Now, if
respect.
you had 10 women, then technically you'd be in hell. I mean, 10. I mean, at that point, you're having lunch with Lucifer.
No, I mean,
man.
it's just, if you feel as though you respected everybody as you want to be treated, you treat others the
Right.
same.
So my sister has been a nun for 40 years, whatever, and she actually knows all the language. In fact, Vatican sends her documents to be translated. So she's been translating. That was her job when she became a cloistered monk, was translation. In fact, it was so much long time ago. She called me one time. She said, "Can I ask you a huge favor?" And she goes, "Someone told me that it might help if I had a computer." I'm like, "Oh my God, you don't have a computer?" So I bought her this Macintosh way back in the day. But anyway, but she can read. She's read every single I mean, she told me one time she had read like every single thing the Vatican had for like its first 500 years. She'd read, but anyway, but she says when you read every major religion, what's creepy to her, there's not a city, person, place, thing. There's nothing in all the major religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, Christianity, Islam, except for one line, which they call the golden rule, treat other people like you want to be treated. But she said if you read it, it would go down as plagiarism. I mean, your college professor would say, you copied off him. You're like, no, this is Islam, and this guy's a Hindu. And the golden rule, which I thought was whoever has the most gold rules. But my sister tells me. but so that's the bottom line of religion, is just treat other people
bottom line of
like you want to be treated.
Exactly. Yep. It's that easy.
And that's another thing where people always have problems with treatment planning. I said, well, that's the easiest thing. What would you want to do on yourself? I mean, if I was smoking, drinking, and on meth, I wouldn't want herodontics done on a tooth. And in fact, what gives dentists clarity with money? Because money is the answer. What's the question? I say, well, you know what? Just have a policy that you warranty everything for 5 years. Then when that tooth snaps off the gum line, you do a root canal and post build up and a crown.
Then you have to do an implant for
free. And 2 years later, they come and hand you this PFM with a dowel. And you're like, oh, now I gotta redo that for free. I mean, 5 years. And furthermore, if the average man lives to be 75, what's 75 divided by 5? I should know that since I had calculus, geometry, trig. 75 divided by 5. That means if it only lasted 5 years, they'd have to have it done 15 times in their lifetime. I'd rather go to a dentist who could give me 10. Now I have to have it done 7 times in my lifetime. So if you're treatment planning, I mean, what would you think if you bought a car or microwave or refrigerator and in 5 years you had to throw it away?
You wouldn't want to do it. Well, that is what the American does. That's what we do.
So I think 5 years gives moral, ethical clarity.
That's why implants are so on the rise. They have an enormous success rate.
Final question I want to get back to. So when I got out of school 30 years ago, the implantologists were all known as butchers. I mean, even in my school, the oral surgeon placed the implants. The other instructors called him a butcher in class. When I moved out here, some of the greatest early pioneers in implantology, Ramus frames, subperiosteals, they're trying everything. First time a really big major case failed, they took their license away. And some of them went from living like rock stars to being an alcoholic in a trailer. And it was very, very sad. Mm-hmm. And then the pendulum came out of the gate, and then it was like periodontal disease, periosurgery, fix all that with titanium. And now I'm starting to see it coming back to perio. I mean, now, and a lot of them, people with the peri-implantitis uses are sitting around thinking, you know what, if that was me, I'd still try to save that too. I would do crown lengthening, and I would do that. Where do you sit on treating periodontal disease with forceps and titanium, or sending them to a periodontist for crown lengthening or periodontal treatment? Or
I'm not a huge fan of when the decay is subgingival or under the bone. I'm not a huge fan of crown lengthening.
So for bacterial streptococcus mutans decay, not a big fan.
Right.
But what about they don't have a decay problem and it's
perio? Then we work a lot harder. If it's just pure perio.
My
we
final
work
word?
Extremely hard to save them.
True or false? Do you think the people that you've seen just in your gut feeling, and I know guts are filled with fecal matter and shit and it's worth nothing, but do you think people that have a lot of perio don't really have a lot of decay? And people with a lot of decay don't have a lot of perio? Or do you see a lot of perio and decay?
No, it's generally true. You're usually dealing with a perio patient or you're dealing with a cavity patient.
And you know what I think that's going to come down? You know what I think they're going to look back 20, 50 years on? That when you look in the mirror, you see 1 trillion cells, animal cells. They're huge. They're like Shea Stadium. And they came from your mom and dad. Mm-hmm. But you have this tube from your mouth to your rectum, and that tube has 10 trillion cells. And there are life forms. And they're very, very small viruses, fungi, microorganisms. But talking to dentists, watching Dental Town, looking at research, it looks like that gut microbiome.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. It's whatever you're inoculated with, from intrautero or from birth, and then how you deal with it from there.
And you know what the number 1 transplant is on the planet today? It's not a lung, it's not a liver, it's not a kidney. It's a fecal matter transplant. They are doing more research. They're doing it with mice. They're taking obese mice. They're taking skinny mice's fecal matter and doing an enema in the fat mice, and it's changing theirs. When you change your diet, when you eat this high sugar American diet with all this soda and everything, you have completely different gut microbiome than a vegan.
Right.
And when you eat everything out of a processed box, there's no life forms in there. But the thing about vegans that are so healthy, you don't have to be a vegan, but the fact that when you eat a banana that's got bruises on it, you're inoculated. I mean, some people take probiotics.
Right. You're inoculated.
You know what's better than probiotics? A rotten banana.
Yeah.
And if you can't eat it, maybe if you just shoved it up your rectum, it's the same thing you get done. Because most of those life forms are in your colon, not the first 20 feet. Stomach and small intestine, all that stuff. But I think it's that's why I want to live the most. It seems like every 5 years, something I believed in dentistry is changed.
Oh, absolutely. And then same with your life. I mean, my goals from 5 years ago are completely different from my goals now. So when I got out of dental school, my goals were totally different. The problem was we blew through them in about, 2 years or something. So then we had to make, and I thought those were unrealistic goals. You blow through them, then what's your next set of goals? Everything
and that's
changes.
the deal. That was my favorite song I was growing up. What was that? Cats in the Cradle.
And a silver spoon.
And a silver spoon where the lyrics say, I'll be happy when I get out of high school, and I'll be happy when I get out of college, and I'll be happy when I get married.
So is the next thing.
Yeah.
It's so you always blow through your goals. That's why don't be going toward that happiness in life is a journey.
Exactly.
And I seriously, you drove 3.5 hours, and she didn't want to be on the show. She's shy. Her husband's shy. I said, no, I don't want to do this. And I said, no. I mean, Kelly. How many years have I known you?
Oh boy, since 2003.
Yeah.
2003.
2003.
And it was were we in drug rehab or were we in
AA.
We both had an ankle bracelet on.
Super good AA meeting.
We both had ankle bracelets on in the same meeting. And I've been a big fan of yours, and I want to get you on the show. You do so many things right. I mean, you guys had a great marriage, great family, great $1 million practice in the rural. I mean, you're my little unicorn.
Well, if you want to be successful, everybody talks about their $1 million practice. Don't get divorced. $1 million? I'm
my
talking more.
My divorce was
yeah.
$3.8 million.
Yeah.
What do you mean $1 million?
So
$1 million.
Everybody has this $1 million dentistry book. It always cracks me up. I'm like, why don't they write a book about don't get divorced and you won't have to worry about anything?
Yeah. But again, I can't believe you made the drive. So it's 3.5 hours to go back home?
Yep.
Yeah.
My gosh, you drove 7 hours to be on the show.
We woke up at 4:15 this morning.
No, we're gonna go look. We're gonna go look at tractors and appliances now.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna? What kind of tractor? You mean a
Smaller, yeah.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
like a lawn tractor, a real tractor, but not huge.
Like a Kubota.
Kubota? That's the name of it?
Mm-hmm.
Huh? I'm from Kansas. I only know John Deere.
Well, they have John Deere's too, but now the John Deere's apparently like the motor's not really made by John Deere. It's outsourced to something
I think
else.
it's so insane when people
Just
say,
has a
"Oh, I
name.
bought American cars." Okay, dude, there's 30,000 parts in that American car. You know what percent of them were not
Yeah.
made in America?
Yeah.
Oh, just 80% of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's thank you so much.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.